Hello and welcome back to the AJ100 Festival. I'm Emily Booth. I edit the Architects Journal and I'd like to welcome you to our next instalment of the awards announcements. We hope that you have enjoyed the festival programme so far, and if you haven't already done so, please don't forget to register to view and participate in our programme of talks, discussions, interviews and case studies. You can find the full lineup of sessions here under the programme tab. Before we begin with the awards announcements, I'd once again like to thank our judges for their time and effort in deliberating and debating this year's entrants. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for supporting the AJ100 Festival and the AJ100 programme. Our thanks to our headline sponsor, Rocker. Our programme sponsors, Schluter Systems and Siemens. Our festival sponsors, Equitone, Moser and VM Zinc. And our trophy sponsor, Fixie. We'd love it if you could tweet or post to Instagram your virtual celebrations throughout the week. And don't forget to tag the Architects Journal using the AJ100 Festival hashtag. Thank you and congratulations once again to all of this year's AJ100 winners, and I hope you enjoy today's programme.
Today's first award, Building of the Year, is awarded to a building completed in 2019 that demonstrates an exemplary design and a carefully considered approach to sustainability. And the shortlist is 1 Finsbury Avenue, Alford Hall, Monaghan Morris. Brunel Building, Fletcher Priests Architects. Dyson Institute of Engineering and Technology, Wilkinson Eyre. Hounslow House, Sheppard Robson. Murray's Mills, Feilden Clegg Bradley Studios. English National Ballet, Glenn Howells Architects. Leeds Playhouse, Page Park. The Standard London, Orms, Shawn Hausman Design, Archer Humphryes. And Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Populous. The judges described this winning project as a fine example of how to design memorable, community-conscious architecture on the very tightest of budgets. And the winner is English National Ballet by Glenn Howells Architects. Judges were impressed by both its design clarity and the exceptional relationship between the architect and the client. Congratulations! Here's a short message from our winners.
Hello, I am Tamara Rojo, Director of English National Ballet, and I am delighted to receive this year's Architect Journal Building of the Year Award on behalf of English National Ballet and Glenn Howells Architect. We moved to our new building in London City Island in Canning Town just over a year ago, last summer, and I can safely say that since then it has transformed the way we work at English National Ballet. What I wanted for the company was a space where we could create, where we could have freedom, where we could share our ambition and we could connect with the local community. It was a vision of openness, a vision of excellence, aspiration and joy. A space where imaginations could be ignited and where everybody will be welcome. And we can say safely that we did it. Thanks to Glenn Howells Architects, we have created what many, and myself included, think to be the best ballet building in the world. And it is now a reference for future buildings for dance around the world. It is a hub for creativity, a melting pot for artists. It's a new Bauhaus where artists can come and create, where work can be shared with our audiences in the UK and around the world and with our local communities. I know there were many incredible buildings and amazing architects nominated for this year, so it is amazing that we got it. So thank you very much. We feel very, very grateful and very proud. Thank you for those that nominated us and voted for us. for our supporters and for our funders, the Arts Council and GLA especially. And thank you for the whole team at Howells Architects for being such amazing partners, for listening to our needs, for being creative, and for allowing us to create together this amazing new home and this beautiful building for ballet and dance in the UK. Thank you, everybody.
Now, we have our next Meet the Disruptor of the Week. Please welcome Architects Climate Action Network, ACAN.
ACAN exists to address the way in which our built environment is made, operated and renewed in response to the climate emergency. As a network of individuals, we channel personal energy, expertise and action towards a common goal, the systemic change of our profession and the construction industry as a whole. We see this as a matter of urgency. Our mission is to mobilise a new movement of professional activists towards this goal by building an open, supportive and inclusive organisation. ACAN empowers individuals to proactively seek change and facilitates collective effort through a shared platform built on collaboration.
Ultimately, our goal is to meaningfully contribute towards decarbonising the construction industry, as Joe said through the mission statement, and we're looking to do this in a variety of ways, working to unlock systemic change from education and knowledge sharing to regulation and policy. And we do this in a variety of ways through our working and thematic groups. We seek to apply strategic pressure to the government when lobbying and campaigning for regulation change. ACAN also drives change in the profession through powering the individuals. I think there's a lot of strength in equipping the workforce with the knowledge that they need to tackle these really huge issues.
Unequivocally, no. There's probably a lot of work happening behind the scenes, and I'm sure that a lot of practices are taking their responsibilities seriously, but this is an emergency and we need to do absolutely everything that we can. I think there's a growing understanding of the scale of the shift that we need, and people are starting to upskill themselves and make certain changes within the office, small steps. But the knowledge of how to deliver true net zero buildings is still a long way off, and there's so much that needs to be changed. It's already been a year since climate strikes, a year since many practices and professionals declared a climate emergency, and the profession has been talking about sustainable practice for decades. So what will it really take before we start taking serious action in our industry?
Well, I really think there is no one magic solution. Firstly, climate literacy training. When people fully comprehend climate change, business as usual just isn't an option. Secondly, practices should have to declare the whole life carbon cost of every building, a kilogram of CO2 equivalent per metre squared for all projects completed that year. To make this standard practice will highlight the impact of our industry and the practices who are really making a difference. Thirdly, architects should just remember a duty beyond their client. Human culture and activity is defined by the architecture we build.
We think that practice success shouldn't be measured only on size and accomplishment or clients. We need to look past logics of unsustainable growth and more towards a culture where we base success upon each employee well-being and establish ethical behaviors within the practice. And only an open culture allows this to happen, and where the workforce feels capable and confident to make change within their practice rather than repeat what was being done before. And as an ACAN member, I would say that sharing is fundamental to grow and succeed. We can only tackle the problem if we work together, and now is not the time to closely guard ideas, technology, or resources. And we surely do that actively, sharing knowledge and experience that's proven to be the way forward.
And now, a short video from our trophy sponsors, Fixie.
Fixie is an architectural model maker, but we use 3D printing to create models for architects. We take the 3D information and we turn that into a 3D print.
Our predominant use is of SLA printing, which is a laser and resin-based printing technology, which then allows architects to apply any finishing they like, forms of sprays, etchings and animation.
Fixie work with all size of architecture firms, especially the AJ100. For an architect to create a model with us, it all starts with the 3D information. This is the 3D model, the BIM model that they're working with. We would take that and then we have to go through a process of file conversion or fixing, and that's hence our name Fixie, to create a 3D printable version of that model.
Model making really brings the print element out from itself. There's definitely examples of models where the print is really impressive and the application of model making through spray finishes, placements within landscapes have made that model and the 3D print within it really come to life.
3D printing, it's rapidly evolving. Every year we see new technologies coming out, the price of printers is coming down, and that means that more architects are actively investigating 3D printing. There's just one major obstacle that still exists, I think, to wide-scale adoption within architecture, and that's around file preparation or file conversion. So that's really what we're focusing on as a company. Architects are making a lot of use out of immersive technologies, virtual reality, augmented reality, and I see 3D printing is very much sitting within that package of communication tools. So the architecture model becomes the blank canvas or the background to the overlaying of this information. By collaborating with Soluus, we're able to offer our clients a more complete product for the 3D data that they supply us with. Not only a physical model, but also an entire digital experience as well. The best thing about what we do is still the surprise and shock of seeing a 3D print. I think it still is an element of wonder there.
I think the best thing that we do here at Fixie is producing a great final element. This will be the model that we produce and hand over to the client. It's always nice to see the print in real life, seeing that data be cut and immersed into a physical world.
Coming from architecture backgrounds and model making backgrounds, we're really focused on creating a 3D printing company that does deliver precisely for architects.
We've allowed ourselves to focus in on what really is valued by the customer, and that's the end model. That end model is our true goal, and although the printing process is really impressive, it is a real function to create something that is great for them.
Our next award is Employer of the Year. This recognises the best practice for employers, judged on issues such as staff satisfaction, training, career development, workplace culture, corporate responsibility, benefits, and staff turnover. The shortlist is Assael Architecture, HLM Architects, HTA Design, JTP, PDP London, RGP, Studio Egret West, and TP Bennett. Judges said, this practice has a clear commitment to developing talent, both beyond the practice and right the way through the business, and has created an organisation where employees evidently feel motivated and valued. And the winner is HLM Architects. Congratulations! And here's a short message from our winner.
Thank you to the AJ and the judges for selecting HLM Architects as Employer of the Year, and congratulations to all the other practices that have been shortlisted.
For me, the best thing about HLM is the way that we support our people to empower them to be the best that they can be, wherever that may be.
We have a shared common purpose to create better places for people.
We have a well-established, flexible working mindset.
We really want to enhance how we work, live and learn, and to achieve that using thoughtful design.
All of these things have enabled us to respond to the challenges we have faced in recent months.
And like many others, we've had to work within a rapidly changing environment.
Recognising personal and community challenges.
And we really have seen that radical change can happen overnight.
So we're going to keep our eyes, our ears and our minds wide open.
And take forward what we're learning to do even more for our people, our communities and our planet.
So on behalf of the board, it's a huge thank you to each and every one of our team. They support each other so well, and together they are so responsive and reliable.
This award recognises the commitment and thoughtfulness of everyone in HLM, and also all those people who have worked with us over the past 55 years.
I'm so proud that we've received this award. I work with such talented and inspirational people every day. This is wonderful recognition of everyone's passion and dedication to each other. Thank you.
Here's a short message from our Practice of the Year category sponsor, Schluter Systems. final category for today is Practice of the Year, sponsored by Schluter Systems. This category is based on how practices are responding to the paradigm shifts taking place in the built environment, such as climate emergency, and also takes into account key business data from the AJ100 survey and the quality of projects completed in 2019. The shortlist is Alford Hall Monaghan Morris, Archetype, BDP, Feilden Clegg Bradley Studios, Foster & Partners, Grimshaw, Horwath Tompkins, Levitt Bernstein, and Perkins and Will. A high commendation has been awarded to Archetype for a transformative 2019, in which it grew an office of 16 in Edinburgh and created a consultancy to advise clients on their buildings' ongoing energy savings. Congratulations! And now, on to the winner. Judges were bowled over by the achievements of this practice, which it describes as setting the standard for architectural practice in today's world. They are challenging themselves to improve on every front and succeeding. And the winner is Hayworth Tompkins. Over to our winner for a short message.
Thank you. We're thrilled to be judged Practice of the Year.
For us, it's been a year of trying to make sense of the pandemic while trying to find ways of working together.
But it's also been a time for us to deepen our practice and grow in ways other than just purely financial.
The world is changing fast, and we think the responsibility of architects, particularly leading practices with a public voice, must now extend beyond design excellence and service provision.
We became an employer-owned trust a year ago, which has energised everything we've done since, and opened up a wide conversation about why we do what we do and to what effect.
Our involvement with Architects Declare has underpinned everything we've done this year, and it's heightened our awareness of just how little time there is left to bring about radical root and branch change in our industry.
We've tried to respond to the urgency of Black Lives Matter through our ongoing work with the Stephen Lawrence Trust and by taking a long, hard look at our own recruitment and support policies.
So we'd like to think this award is as much in recognition of those aspects of our practice this year as the design awards we've won.
Thank you!
And now, a case study from Daniel Mulligan, Director at Glen Howells Architects, on the English National Ballet, this year's AJ100 Building of the Year winner.
Hi, my name is Dan Mulligan from Glen Howells Architects, and I'm here today to talk about the English National Ballet, a building we've been working on with the ballet for the last 6 years. And there's really three core points that I want to get across today. The first point is that the ballet is a traveling organisation. By that I mean that they're on the road for 6 months a year, around the country, around the world, bringing ballet to regions which normally wouldn't get ballet. The second point I want to get across is that we believe that the ballet have developed a new business model for arts organisation in this building. And by that I mean that for the 6 months they're on the road, they're renting out their building to other organisations, essentially establishing a new source of income to secure the financial stability going forward. And the third point I want to get across is that we believe that we've designed a building for the English National Ballet that is born out of function and performance and effectively is a factory for dance. And when I consider the journey of the English National Ballet for the past 6 years, and I put that in the context of the 70 years previous to that, and initially in 1950, directly after World War II, the best dancers in the country, Anton Dolan and Alicia Markova, were discussing the state of ballet in the UK. And they concluded that effectively ballet is very much a London-centric thing, and that surely the regions wanted ballet too. And that is really where the whole ethic and the whole spirit of the ballet came from, to bring dance to places which don't normally get dance. And this is how it continued for the next 27 years until 1977, when a former student hall of residence in Kensington was donated to them and became the first home. And that is, for me, that's an incredible moment. that is them going from their vans and working for the kitchen table to having their first permanent home. And that must have been a seismic shift in terms of securing the future of the ballet. And that's how it continued until roughly 2014, when again, they had another seismic shift where they decided to move from their home in Kensington and try to find a new home. And that's an incredible step. And you look at that and you think, well, why did they do that? And you think to yourself, well, it's back off the back of the 2008 recession, off the back of significant arts funding cuts across the country, and them trying to take themselves by the bootstrings and actually try to find a way of securing their future that's not reliant on anyone else. And that's an amazing thing. So when I look at this era as Anton and Alicia in the form of Tamara Rojo, the artistic director, and Justin Bickel, the executive chairman, I see a similar leap of bravery and ambition that's led to the English National Ballet selling their home in Kensington and moving to East London. And that's an incredible thing. And this move eastward was generated by four key reasons. The first reason is that the building in Kensington was originally a student hall as a residence, so it wasn't designed as a ballet building in the first place. So did I grown that building a long time ago? Secondly, was much loved. It was a Victorian building, so it was much loved. It was very much a make, do, and mend building, so it wasn't fit for purpose. The third key reason here is that the ballet could get much more bang for the buck in Kensington, from Kensington, than they could get in East London. So moving to East London gave them a lot more for the money. And finally, by the ballet moving to East London to a new community, they would be the centre of that new community rather than being a peripheral part of Kensington. So I think they're the key things. And that was Tamara's and Justin's vision. I mean, what they wanted to create was a Bauhaus for dance, a building that could rent out to other people while they're on the road and therefore make them money while they're on the road. And by doing so, secure their future for the next 100 years. And that allowed them to then be bolder and more ambitious with their shows in the future. So this whole thing tied together for the product of the art that they do could be more bold and more ambitious for what they're doing. So that led them to kind of go around London to multiple sites trying to find a new home. And there was many options for them. But in the end, they chose London City Island. And it's a very, very compelling option. Firstly, when you look at it, it looks like this still life of multicolored buildings surrounded by the River Lee, just before it joins onto the River Thames in East London. Secondly, it's already home to about 3,500 people. So it's effectively about the size of a small town. I think this is part of its appeal to the English National Ballet, that they could become the centrepiece of this town, a bit like the church would have been, or the community centre would have been in the past in towns. They could be that central hub for the community to gather around. And just as important as finding the right site, I think, in this instance, was find the right development partner. In this case, it was Equal World Ballymore. And first of all, they donated the shell and core of this building to the ballet for free. So that's an amazing first step. But probably just as important to that is, in London City Island, they already had this vision of creating this arts centre in East London, of bringing artists and designer makers and people like that into one place. And that generated the vibe and the aesthetic and this energetic, youthful feel. I think the ballet really bought into that. And they bought into the fact that actually they would be that kind of anchor tenant in all of that situation. And actually they would be the thing that people came around. And that then led us to the brief of the building. And the brief was simple as it sounds like, was obviously very, very complicated, as they always are. But the core to the brief was they needed 7 15 by 15 metre dance studios. And these dance studios would be 5.5 metres high. So big volumes. But in the middle of all of this, they wanted what they call a production studio. And just to describe that a little bit, this was similar to like a production studio you would see in a TV centre, where you have the stage set and it has it's robust, where you make all the stages in it, and it's got the ability to rehearse live shows in it. But it's not a theatre. This is not somewhere where you bring people to see a show. This is somewhere where they rehearse their shows before they go on the road, and that became the centerpiece of their building. And then around those studios and the production studio, you then have all the ancillary stuff, things like medical facilities, gyms, offices, toilets, changing rooms, wardrobe area, all that other softer stuff that could be kind of manipulated and changed in form and shape to fit around those key things, which are the studios. And out of that, the most impressive space is obviously the production studio. And that was generated from a number of things. And first of all, the stage was vitally important. For Tamara, the best stage in the world is the London Coliseum in terms of the size and shape. And she wanted a size and shape of stage which would mimic that. So that was the first building block. And then on top of that, it needed to have a 26-meter high single purchase flying rig that would mimic the type of flying rig that they would find on the road. So effectively, they could test their shows and practice their shows almost like for like as to the stages that they go and they visit across the world. So effectively, that would stop them from having to rent out the London Coliseum a week before they went on the road and save them money. So all this ties back into the business plan, and that was fundamental to everything. On top of that, this production studio needed to have easy access to a loading bay beside it, which they could take all their stage sets and all their costumes and all that sort of stuff and load onto the back of a couple of Arctic lorries, which are parked beside the stage set on the ground level, and then they're on the road, touring the world, touring the country, going to wherever they need to go to next. So all that was really, really important. And then on top of that, this stage set needed to do two things. It needed to be both acoustic treated, because they were going to rehearse the music and the shows and all that sort of stuff. So it needs to perform from an acoustic point of view. But it needs to be a workshop. They were going to change stages and all that sort of stuff in this space, so it needs to be robust. So you've got these conflicting things that you need to do, which you managed to achieve for them. So that is the special space that's in the middle of this building, which was core to what this building is about. And then on the facade of the building, when we sold this to the Ballet in the first place, we had three core ideas. First of all, this concept of light, silhouette, and backdrop. And the idea was that with light, that it would glow at night and become this beacon for the surrounding area, that you'd walk towards this beacon, almost like a lighthouse. The second thing is we love the idea of the idea of silhouettes of dancers being seen through the glass, that it almost felt like this Japanese paper show, that you could see this dynamic facade of dancers dancing around behind the glass, and that could be seen from the outside. That was compelling to us. Next was that this would act as a backdrop to the square, that you could project images from the square onto the facade in key times when the festivals were happening. So the facade almost acted like a cinema screen. And then finally, that during the day, that this facade would appear subtle and effortless and completely at ease with itself. So it has this dichotomy, this dual nature of the daytime and the nighttime, and it's subtle and classy during the day, and it's very, very alive and active and interesting at night. So there's this really, really interesting facade configuration. And we achieved that by a really interesting product called Linnet. And Linnet is effectively, it's an engineering glass or an industrial glass. It's not normally used for beautiful buildings like this. And what it is two sections of glass which are sandwiched together with a translucent insulation inside of it. And those two things together, the insulation and the glass, allowed us to have this paper-like quality for the glass, first of all. And secondly, allowed us to have this ability to have the silhouettes of the dancers being seen through the glass, but also control the level of the glare and the sun getting through the glass. So it's a really, really interesting product, and became the core product of that facade. And the internal spaces were equally simple. And they came out of necessity. The Ballet didn't have a huge budget. So effectively, we needed to get incredibly creative with how we spent that money and what we spent it on. And probably the product that actually, the component which best describes that are the bridge beams. Now, consider that these studios are between 50 meters wide and 80 meters wide, and you've got to span that distance. And what that means is that when you have 70 dancers jumping up and down on a beam, it needs to do two things. It needs to, first of all, be strong enough to hold those people, but probably more important than that, absorb that energy of 60 or 70 people jumping up and down it and distribute that energy across the building. And that's why these concrete bridge beams linked to a concrete structure was fundamental to that. The concrete structure and the concrete bridge beams had the mass to absorb all that energy. And then on top of that bridge beam and those concrete walls became the thermal mass of the building. So they acted almost like a flywheel for the building. So when it got hot, they absorbed that heat and then released it slowly throughout the day. So it did that thermal mass job. And on top of that, bridge beams are really attractive. You know, I don't want to be a boffin about this, but I like a nice bridge beam. And so there's something really interesting about that you expose the structure. You take the thing which is the necessary and you make it beautiful. and therefore it's free. The aesthetic is free, and I think that's the thing which underwrites this whole building. The things which are beautiful are things you had to do anyways. On top of that, to contrast the concrete, we then had these timber acoustic panels, which then also offered warmth to the building in terms of the coloration and the natural feel. So you have these two fundamental languages or materials, the timber and the concrete, contrasting off each other, both doing multiple jobs. And that's effectively the story of the interior of the building. You get multiple things doing multiple jobs, warm and hard and soft and heavy and all that sort of stuff. And that becomes what the building's about. And the final thing I'd say about the interiors is this really, really special ribbon staircase that we have running through the core of the building. And the idea with that was that it first of all encouraged people to use the stairs to go up and down the building rather than using the lift. So from a sustainable point of view, that worked really well. But also, really, really importantly, we deliberately made this staircase 2 meters wide so that people would bump into each other, or would meet each other, would stop in the staircase for a chat. And therefore, it becomes this kind of social core to the entire building, which ties everybody together. And I think that's a really, really fascinating dynamic to the building. And to conclude, I mean, the reality is that building a building is never easy. And it hasn't been easy for the English National Ballet. It's been really, really tough, and you can imagine that. When I think of the guts and the vision that Alicia Markova and Anton Dolan must have had initially to set up the English National Ballet back in 1950, and I put that into context with Tamara and Justin and the guts and the vision that they have obviously had in 2014 to move from Kensington to East London, to find this new home and to create this new business model for arts agencies everywhere. I think that's an incredible thing. It fills me with awe and admiration for those people, the bravery they must have had to do that. And the other thing I think about is one of the things that their executive chairman, Patrick Harrison, said just before we finished the building. And he said that the feedback from the dancers of this building was that it felt like a building that you could fill in. And you can look at that a few ways. You can think, well, that's obviously an insult, which is not how I look at it. I look at it as actually quite a philosophical response to quite a complicated building. And when you drill into what I think that means, is that you can come into this building, you can get an absolute hammering today. You can be told your dance is wrong and all that sort of stuff. But the building's still inviting enough that tomorrow you can come back again, all arms swinging, ready to start again. And if that is what it means, and if that is the building that we've created for the English National Ballet, then for me, that's a building that we're happy to stand behind. Thank you very much.
That concludes today's awards announcements. Congratulations to all our winners. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow as we announce the next set of award winners.